McKnight Tonight. McKnight Tonight. McKnight Tonight. McKnight Tonight. Funny, insightful interviews from a washed-up producer with nothing to lose. McKnight Tonight. McKnight Tonight. McKnight Tonight. Here comes McKnight Tonight.
Rolling again. Hello and welcome to McKnight Tonight. What a night we are having. And I promise you, this is not the reason we've had issues. Jasmine is switching the show for the very first time tonight. This is not her fault, although you haven't put up the Rob McKnight Super yet. Jasmine? There's a Rob McKnight Super? No, we're not doing that. Okay. It's a bare bones operation. So I'm on to my third wine already. It's Tipsy Thursday. Welcome to McKnight Tonight. What are you drinking tonight? I tell you what, we have had a major technical issue here. I promise you, not Jasmine's fault, not at all. I got this at BWS tonight at $20. They had a big deal. So I'm trying the Krondorf Founders View Barossa Shiraz. So I hope, thank you to everyone who stuck around and waited for us to come on. I can't believe you're all here. And for those people who have only just discovered this show, I promise you, we usually start right on 9 o'clock Australian Eastern Daylight Time. We usually are right on time to the second. That's 8 o'clock in Queensland, 8:30 in South Australia, and 6 p.m. in WA. I am Rob McKnight. Welcome to the show. You can take part in the conversation by going to youtube.com/@McKnightTonight. We love your feedback. We love you taking part. And so please take part in the conversation. We've got a great community and I am seeing new people popping up all the time. So I love that. I love seeing new people doing it and coming up. And so it is so great to see you guys taking part in the show. All right, we have a big show planned for you tonight. We are talking about toilets at school, cameras at schools watching toilets. We are talking about US politics, and it's been a crazy day over in the US. I want to cover that. Am I a misogynist? Well, people have accused me of being just that because of my comments about Jackie O. And can you believe it? There are dog breeds that the English Parliament is planning to ban because they say that these dogs are not healthy. It's nothing to do with safety. It's because the dogs aren't healthy, and it includes the Queen's corgi. All right, let's get into tonight's first story. A Sydney Catholic school has started, and excuse me, I'm just going to get, there we go. A Sydney Catholic school has started monitoring student toilet use, tracking when students enter and exit their bathrooms on CCTV, and sending text alerts to parents when their child takes a bathroom break during class time. St. Leo's Catholic College in Wahroonga says it's a trial prompted by students vandalising freshly renovated bathrooms, throwing wet toilet paper on the ceiling, removing doors from stores. The school's vice principal says they're also involving New South Wales Police, where vandals are identified. Some parents are fully supportive. One mum even got her first notification. She did think her son was in trouble, but he just needed to go. Now, typically, the cameras are outside the bathrooms, not inside. The principal was very firm on that point, but it does raise a question worth asking. At what point does a crackdown on bad behaviour start to feel like surveillance of the normal kind? I've got to tell you, I don't actually have a problem with this idea. The cameras aren't in the toilet. They're literally monitoring outside. And these kids have vandalized the school. They have literally destroyed a bathroom. So now the pressure's on them because the cameras are outside and they can see when they're going in and out of the toilet. Nothing inside, nothing is seen in the public spaces. And I reckon that's all right. You know, if it was in the classroom, I'd probably have a little bit of an issue. But I think on a school ground, whether it's a private school or public school, I don't really see a problem with cameras being in the common areas. There's no problem with that. And if these little shits want to do the wrong thing by destroying the school, then we need to know who they are. And so, yeah, I'm for this one. Jasmine, when you were at school, would you have a problem with the toilets being on, the cameras being outside the toilet? Mm-hmm.
No, because I never did anything wrong.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Thank you, Jasmine. No, I'm for this one. Let me know what you think at youtube.com/@McKnight Tonight.
McKnight Tonight.
Take the super off.
McKnight Tonight. McKnight Tonight. Here comes McKnight Tonight.
All right, moving on. Of course, let me know your thoughts at youtube.com.au. All right. I'm just going to tell Jasmine something. They're the over-the-shoulder graphics you've got queued up. Don't worry about that. We'll just go straight into the supers and the graphics, okay? All right. We're having a little bit of a production meeting. Mum was meant to be helping her, but she's been called away to something else. So, yes, we're running by the seat of our pants tonight. But, Jasmine, you are doing a fabulous job. Thank you very much. All right, moving on. And 6 American soldiers have now been killed since the United States went to war with Iran. And rather than focus on the grief of those families, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, well, he went to the Pentagon briefing room yesterday and complained that the deaths were getting too much press coverage.
This is what the fake news misses.
Good.
We've taken control of Iran's airspace and waterways without boots on the ground. We control their fate. But when a few drones get through or tragic things happen, it's front page news. I get it. The press only wants to make the president look bad, but try for once to report the reality. The terms of this war will be set by us at every step.
Now, that prompted an extraordinary exchange at the White House briefing when CNN's Caitlin Collins pressed Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt on exactly what Hegseth meant.
Caitlin. You just mentioned that the president is going to attend the dignified transfer for these families. Given what Secretary Hegseth said this morning, is it the position of this administration that the press should not prominently cover the deaths of U.S. service members?
No, it's the position of this administration that the press in this room and the press across the country should accurately report on the success of Operation Epic Fury and the damage it is doing to the rogue Iranian regime that has threatened the lives of every single American in this room. If the Iranian regime had their choice, they would kill every single person in this room. And so we can all be very grateful that we have an administration and that we have men and women in our armed forces who are willing to sacrifice their own lives for the rest of us in this room and for every American across the country and for every troop that is based in the Middle East. That's what these...
Secretary Hegseth was complaining that it was front page news about these 6 service members who were killed.
That's not what the secretary said, Caitlin, and that's not what the secretary meant, and you know it. You know you are being disingenuous. There is not... We've never had a Secretary of Defense who cares more.
Drones get through or tragic things happen. It's front page news. I get it. The press only wants to make the president look bad.
Yeah,
As you know, we cover the deaths
does,
of U.S. service members under every president.
The press does only want to make the president look bad. That's a fact. Especially you. No, listen to me. Especially you and especially CNN. And the Secretary of Defense cares deeply about our war fighters and our men and women in uniform. He travels all across this country to meet with them, to connect with them, and your network has hardly ever probably reported on that. You also had the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Chairman Kane, who's a brave patriot, standing alongside the secretary at the Pentagon this morning, again expressing his condolences to these families. And I just told you that the President of the United States will be attending their dignified transfer. So please,
That's not making the president look bad. That's showcasing that.
We expect you to cover that as you should. We expect you to cover that as you should, Caitlin. But you and your network know that you take every single thing this administration says and tries to use it to make the president look bad. That is an objectable fact.
I don't think covering troop deaths is trying to make the
if you're trying to argue right now that CNN's overwhelming coverage is not negative of President Donald Trump, I think the American people would tend to agree, and your ratings would tend to disagree with that as well.
I got no time for that. Anytime that you start talking about someone's ratings and when you say that you just abuse the press, you've lost the argument in my book. And that seems to be something the Trump administration and everyone who works for Trump, that's what they seem to do. They just attack. But here's my point. He said, and she said, they both said, the press only wants to make the president look bad. It is not the job of the press to make a president or anyone in power look good or bad. It is their job to report. And I think on the whole, that's what the press does. Now, if we are talking about US cable networks, and Caitlin Collins, who is a fine journalist and has been told to smile by the president and has been abused quite a bit by the administration, she works for CNN. Now, CNN, I think, is probably more middle ground, more centrist than Fox and MS Now, which was MSNBC. Fox News is obviously ultra-conservative, very right-wing, pro-Republican, pro-President Trump. MS Now is very left-leaning, very against Donald Trump and the administration, whereas CNN is really fact-based. So I don't have a problem with CNN's reporting. Now, anything I'm saying here, I'm saying from the grounds of someone who is very much a centrist, probably a little bit to the right. I know there's some of you who would think I'm very right, but the problem is I will pick up on topics and I will skew my thoughts on what I believe is right. And I think this is outrageous, the way reporters and journalists are being treated by the administration. They literally do believe it is the journalist's job to be their propaganda arm. Well, America's not a dictatorship, at least it's not yet. We see it from Anthony Albanese to some extent here as well. He will have a go at journalists and belittle them with comments and questions he doesn't like. And I do find that outrageous. But what we're seeing here is just absolute attack when you don't have the facts on your side. She actually said it is an objectionable fact that CNN tries to paint the president in a bad light. No, it's not. You're throwing that out there. And President Trump started this with the whole concept of fake news. He was there basically to get out of jail. Fake news, you're fake news, you're fake news. Do you know what the thing about Trump is? Trump knows it's not true. He plays a game. And he'll attack someone and then the cameras go off and he'll go up to them and say, hey, got you there, didn't I? It's that kind of repertoire. But that's not what happens with Levitt here and Pete Hegseth and all the others. They are drinking the Kool-Aid. They are really getting on top of his messaging and trying to just hound reporters because they know they'll get a pat on the back. No matter how it looks to everyone else, if they get a text message or a Truth Social from Trump saying, good job, I like the way you did that, that's all they care about. They're playing to an audience of one. Now, meanwhile, across town on Capitol Hill, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, well, she was having an equally uncomfortable day. Noem was before the House Judiciary Committee for a DHS oversight hearing, that's Department of Homeland Security, but things took a sharp turn when Democrat Sydney Camalanga Dove asked her directly whether she had ever had sexual relations with her top advisor. Now, Noem called the question tabloid garbage, but notably did not say no.
So, Secretary Noem, at any time during your tenure as Director of Department of Homeland Security, have you had sexual relations with Corey Lewandowski?
Mr. Chairman, I am shocked that we're going down and peddling tabloid garbage in this committee today.
Reclaiming
and
my
ma'am,
time.
one thing that I would tell you is that he is a special government employee who works for the White House. There are thousands of them in the federal government.
So, reclaiming
and
my
is an
time,
advisor
Secretary, it is
and has
okay for
no,
you to be
no
offended
authority
by
to
the
be
question.
making any
It is
decisions.
okay for you to
has
be
no
offended
authority
by the
to
question.
be making
But it is
decisions
also
and
a
putting
real
up your
question.
position. So what I would say
And
to
you should be able to
is
answer
that
the
what we do at the
question
Department of Homeland
clearly
Security every single
and without
day,
any hesitation.
every single day is to protect
if
this
someone
country
is
and
asking
to make
if
decisions.
you or any federal official is sleeping with their subordinate, that should be the easiest. You should be wanting to answer that question.
Is garbage?
Because it is not about
It is
your sex
offensive
life.
that you have brought
It is
that up.
about your
So
judgment.
that kind of garbage
It
has
is about
been refuted
reclaiming
for
my
years,
time so
and
that
you
I
need
can
to
hear myself
recognize-
on the chair.
Time belongs to the gentlelady from California, but it'd be nice if you would let her respond.
I will. I want to let you know it is about your judgment and decision-making. It is about the 260,000 employees that work under you that want to make sure that you are giving information and making decisions clearly. It is about conflict of interest. It is about a national security risk.
Now, there's one detail that makes this even more awkward. Noem's husband, Brian, was sitting directly behind her when that question was asked. Ouch. Here's the problem. Everyone expects Kristi Noem to get the old heave-ho. It hasn't happened yet, but she has spent an extraordinary amount of money as the head of ICE. You know, she's been doing all her videos. There was a bed in the private plane she chartered, which maybe she was having relations with that man. I shouldn't laugh, but she can't deny it. If she lies in Congress, that's a contemptible offense. And so if she is having this affair, she can't say she's not. And she's directly been asked the question. But why does it matter, you might be asking? Well, people in positions of power like this need to be held accountable. What is she doing? How is her judgment being affected by being in this relationship? Is he getting promotions that he may not deserve? Is she being held, if someone knows this, is she being blackmailed? Or is someone saying, I know about you too, you better, do this for me? When people in positions of power like Kristi Noem have this kind of personal baggage, it is a problem. And if we bring it back to Australia, I was very supportive of the Daily Telegraph when they did that front page cover of Vicky Campion when she was pregnant with Barnaby Joyce's child. A lot of people said private lives of politicians are off limits. Absolutely not. Politicians are there representing us. They promote themselves, they get elected on their values. Barnaby Joyce was a big family values man, against gay marriage, all that kind of stuff. But there he was, having an affair with his chief of staff, who he then got pregnant, then left his wife for. And we as voters don't have a right to know about that? No, I'm not on board with that. Cheryl Curnow from the Democrats had an affair with Gareth Evans. Laurie Oakes, I think it was the one who exposed that, and as he should. And he copped a lot of criticism for doing that. But we have the right to know. I have never understood this idea that the private lives of politicians are off limits. Kids, they're kids, sure, no problem with that. But the politician themselves, they're having affairs, we absolutely have the right to know. I have never, ever understood why people think anything else.
McKnight Tonight. McKnight Tonight. McKnight Tonight. Here comes McKnight Tonight.
Well, let me know your thoughts by going to youtube.com.au. No, that's not the website address at all. Hang on. What's the website address? It is youtube.com/@McKnight Tonight. There we go, Jazzy. Thank you very much for that. And can we all say, Jasmine McKnight, what a fabulous job you're doing. She really has been thrown into the deep end here. She is actually having to play catch up with elements missing. So we are making up half the show on the run as we are streaming live at 9:33 Sydney time, 8:33 here in Queensland. And so now, I want to go back just quickly before I get into the rant, because I'm sure someone, was it Clintos is the bestos who, you've got it there. 10 sips for $10, Rob. I'll take that challenge. It was more than a sip. I'll keep sipping. But if you want me to have a sip of the fine wine tonight, chuck some money in the YouTube. This could become a dangerous Thursday night tradition if we keep doing that. Hey, time for a rant. Now, last night, you might remember, I talked about Carl and Jackie O. It's been the biggest story not in media, just big story overall in Australia. But I made some comments about Jackie O and how I believe she owes Carl an apology. Well, since that editorial, my inbox has been very, very busy. Now, there was a lot of support, please don't get me wrong, but I have picked out some comments here because some people took issue with what I was saying and pretty much threw some criticisms my way I'd like to talk about. On YouTube, one viewer wrote, and I'm quoting directly here, "Your crush on Carl is actually embarrassing. All you can do is fangirl him and shame her because heaven forbid she has some boundaries." Another called me a narcissist supporting a narcissist. And on X, Matthew Jensen told me my, quote, misogynist views are not welcome and suggested I go back to my elite men-only clubs. Right. So let me address this head on. What I did was look at this situation, which involves two people, and I offered a view on both of them. Not just the man, both of them. I criticised Kyle for having that conversation on air. And I criticised Jackie for moving the goalposts of what was acceptable in their relationship, but not telling him. But the moment I did that, I became a misogynist. Here's my question. Let's assume the roles were reversed. Jackie O was having a go at Kyle. He walked off and he said it's an unsafe workplace. Now, if I'd gone over after Kyle the way I did Jackie, would anyone have called that sexism? Would I have been accused and belittled the way I have been? Of course I wouldn't. But apply the same scrutiny to Jackie, and suddenly I'm victim blaming women in skimpy clothes. That's quite a leap. Jackie O is one of the most powerful, highest paid broadcasters in this country. She is a grown adult who made decisions that affected a lot of people. She can be examined. She can be criticised. Suggesting otherwise isn't feminism, it's condensation. Now, I will always own what I actually say, but I am not going to apologise for holding everyone in the room to the same standard, because I am not judging people based on their sex. But it's the same kind of trolls on social media who will say things like, "Is your wife okay?" and make comments that I must abuse my wife, Amanda, because I dare say something against a woman. The same commentary that I would make against a man. Expecting different values is not equality. Playing the gender card, playing the misogyny card is not what feminism was all about. You're turning women into a victim if you can't hold them to the same standard that you do men. I don't play that game. And I find it really offensive when people start to throw around, because I've said this comment, I must be abusive towards my wife. How dare you? How bloody dare you? But what I am seeing a lot here is I'm seeing women in particular equate this to domestic violence with what's going on with Kyle. It is nothing of the sort. These two people have equal standing. They were on the same pay. Jackie ran that show. She hired and fired the people. She was in charge of the segments. She wasn't just some patsy who turned up and had no control. And do you think for one moment that if Jackie stood up and said, "I'm not happy," that no one would listen? She isn't some abused wife too scared to speak up. And to suggest otherwise, well, it's condescending towards her. We have a situation here where she moved the goalposts. That's fine. I have an issue with the way she went about it. She didn't give him the chance to change his behaviour. She went to an extreme and called it an unsafe workplace and said she can't work with Carl anymore. I do find that appalling. And I don't understand, and maybe it's because I'm a man, I don't understand how anyone can think it's okay for the rules of a relationship to be changed and then be allowed to call the other person who's been working in the same rules as you for 27 years, how you can then start pointing the finger at them. How does that work? I don't get it. So keep calling me a misogynist. Keep having a go at me. But do not ever again accuse me of being abusive towards my wife, not only is that defamation towards me, it's insulting to her, especially when if I said the wrong thing to her, she'd slap me around the head. I'm joking. I just thought I'd end on a lighter note. All right, that's Rob's rant. Coming up shortly, we will be looking at the dog breeds that are being banned in the United Kingdom. Yeah, this is a crazy story. I'll get to your feedback and all that and more after we have a random live shot of the day.
McKnight Tonight. McKnight Tonight. McKnight Tonight. Here comes McKnight Tonight.
We'll come back to the random live shot of the day. It's a good one, isn't it, Jazzy? We'll come to it shortly. All right, moving on. And I'll tell you what we'll do. Before we go into the next topic, we'll do some feedback. How about that, Jazz? We'll do some feedback that's coming through to McKnight Tonight and see what you guys are saying online. So we've got this one from Scouse_Raw. I wonder when Rob will do a shoey on the show. Never, ever, ever will I do a shoey. I think it's disgusting. I cannot stand it when people do it. All right, we've got this one from Clintos is the bestos. I'm chugging away on your crazy, but always drink responsibly. Oh, unless you're at home. I'll tell you what, I need a drink tonight. Jazzy doesn't drink. I think she'll be having a drink tonight. We've got this one from Matthew. I like McKnight Tonight. McKnight Tonight. Very nice. Clintos is the bestos says, first Carl and Jackie O bust up, and now it's Rob and McKnight Tonight. What is the world coming to? Thank you very much, Clintos is the bestos. Your Crazy says, thank goodness for the clock. I was considering dancing around nude for everyone's pre-show entertainment. I should have waited longer. We'd all love to see that. Jeanette says, yay, Jazz, well done. Yeah, well, can I just say, right now, not only is she switching the show, but she's doing the social media and picking your comments as well. So she's really doing well. Radio Notes Podcast says, happy International Women's Day, Jazz. Well, it's not today. It's over the weekend, I think. But yeah, Jazz, you are doing just great. Actually, do you want to jump in and do the next few topics and I'll switch the show? She said no. Security cameras are at the front of toilets in shopping centres. They film kids there, so why not schools? Yes, absolutely. What else have we got coming through, Jazz? Beck is there. She says, Rob, did you see any snappers of the Albanese and the PM at Canada's meeting today? They were pure class. I didn't see that. We've been having a few technical issues all day, so I've only been keeping half an eye on what was going on the 24-hour news channels. Usually I've got them on all day. Jeanette says she wouldn't be telling the press what they should say or do. She shouldn't be telling the press what they should say or do. Like you said, Rob, they are there to report. Thank you, Jeanette. Jeanette's sort of like our mama of the social media page. She's always there, always ready to say g'day to new people that come across. So thank you, Jeanette. We've got this one. This looks like a new viewer. Dave Haley, 3938. Rob, Fox is all for Trump and CNN don't like him. Well, they give that opinion, same as Fox News in Australia, always against Labor. Yeah, Fox News is all for Trump, 100%, and that's what I said. But I don't think, and Sky is very much skews to the right. CNN, though, I'm sorry, I do think they went through a phase, in fairness, when Trump was in first term and they were under Jeff Zucker. They were skewing very much to the left, and because they were getting ratings from being anti-Trump. But there's been big management changes since then, and I think they are more middle of the road now. That's my take, and I do watch a lot of the coverage of all the cable news channels from the US, so I feel like I have a good viewpoint on that. Only You're Crazy says Trump has narcissistic personality disorder, among other things. We've got this one from Sip for a Tip, but as always, drink responsibly. Thank you, Clintos is the bestos. We've got this one from Matthew. This is on Kyle and Jackie. If the roles were reversed, people would tell Kyle to grow a pair and move on. Now Matthew, when I was saying that just then, I did think to myself, hang on, people wouldn't be they wouldn't be thinking about Kyle. They would actually be more likely to, as you said, tell him to grow a pair and move on. So for all this talk of equality, it's certainly not true. Jimmy says, well said, Rob. In the rant, sadly, trolls will always be there. Thank you very much for all your feedback coming through to McKnight Tonight. All right, let's move on to our next topics. The Albanese government has pulled its controversial Freedom of Information Reform Bill from the Senate, ditching the legislation rather than face a vote it was always going to lose. Now, the changes would have imposed a cost on requests to access government documents and would wind back obligations on public servants to actually produce that information. Now, critics across the board, the Coalition, the Greens, and much of the press gallery called it a secrecy grab, a truth tax. Katie Gallagher today acknowledged the obvious, that the bill just simply didn't have the numbers, while insisting the government still believes the FOI system needs fixing. And look, here's the thing, she's not wrong about that. The system is slow, it's backlogged, and genuinely needs modernising. But Labor managed to take a reform that had merit and package it in a way that looked like it was designed to make life harder for journalists and citizens trying to hold governments to account. And the timing didn't help. Coming off the back of very real community concerns about the eSafety Commissioner's reach, people were already primed to be suspicious of anything that looked like the government tightening its grip on information. The FOI system does need work, but Australians shouldn't be priced out of accessing documents their own government holds about them. And any future reform is going to have to start from that principle, or it'll end up exactly when this one did. And this is one of the things about Anthony Albanese's government. They talk about transparency, but there is none. They're trying to stop your ability to access information that should be available under Freedom of Information. Now, states have different names for it. In Queensland, I think it's called the right to know. But you have a right as a citizen. It's not just for journalists. Citizens have the right to investigate the government and obtain Freedom of Information documents. And Anthony Albanese there's been an influx about Freedom of Information for the eSafety Commissioner. Well, so she was introducing contentious legislation with the under-16 social media ban. People had a right to know. They were interested. Just because you're doing something controversial and people want to know about it doesn't mean you should ban their right to investigate. This is really simple stuff. And again. Now, one of the things they're trying to do is outprice you from being able to do this. It is wrong and it stinks. And there is no way that we should allow this government to do it. And I am so pleased the Libs, the Nats, the Greens and the crossbenchers all said, no, we're not playing this game. And I really like that. And thankfully, Labor didn't want the sniff of losing something. They really got to be in their bonnet about having legislation not be able to get through the Senate. So they've withdrawn it. And they were even apparently offering the coalition extra staff members. If they approved this legislation, they were saying to the coalition, as far as the reporting in the SMH from memory, that the coalition could have more staff in general as a thank you. Now, what the hell is that? Isn't that a bribe? I mean, I guess it's doing a deal in Parliament. Sounds like a bloody bribe to me.
McKnight Tonight. McKnight Tonight. McKnight Tonight. Here comes McKnight Tonight.
All right, now to a story that will upset a lot of dog lovers and possibly the ghost of Queen Elizabeth. Britain's Parliament has launched a new animal welfare checklist, and this is designed to stamp out the breeding of dogs with extreme physical characteristics, flat faces, bulging eyes, excessive skin folds, genuinely good intentions. But the problem? Critics say 67 popular breeds will automatically fail it, including the Welsh Corgi, the Dachshund, the Scottish Terrier, and the Shih Tzu. Now, the Corgi gets knocked out because of its short legs, specifically not enough clearance between the chest and ground. Now, we've been a bit crazy tonight, but I am going to try and call up, if I can do this, and you have to bear with me for a moment because I had to close down all my systems. But I want to call up the article from the Times, and Jasmine, if I can find it. Hang on, here we go. No, it wasn't there. Sorry, people. This is going well, Rob. You've done a really great job here. Maybe if I go to my... Oh, no, I know where it'll be. If I go there and go dog headline. Now, Jasmine, if you take my computer and show... There it is. Now, as you can see, Queen Elizabeth's favourite dog in danger of being banned. But if I go down here, I can show you the breeds, and maybe I can enlarge that, right? So let's have a look at the breeds involved here. The American Cocker Spaniel, the Australian Cattle Dog, the Australian Shepherd, the Beagle. I'll go over the page here. The Bloodhound, Border Collie, Boston Terrier, Boxer, the Bulldog, the Cavalier King Charles Spaniel, Chihuahua, the Dachshund, as I mentioned, the French Bulldog, Great Dane, Japanese Chin, the Old English Sheepdog, the Welsh Corgi, the Pug, the Rough Collie, I don't know what that is, the Shih Tzu, the Shetland Sheepdog. And what I'm not noticing on here is dogs that attack. You know, there's been a lot of conversations about Rottweilers and Staffies that attack people, but they're not mentioned here. We're literally making a decision that breeds that have been around for hundreds of years are not allowed to be alive anymore. They want them bred out. Now, look, the checklist is voluntary for now, but it's expected to become law within 5 years. And some local councils are already using it when assessing breeders. Now, here's the thing. Queen Elizabeth owned more than 30 corgis during her reign. Her final 2 were at her funeral. And one campaigner said, and I quote, "I think the late Queen would have been very upset." That is the understatement of the year, Jasmine. I think the Queen would have been very upset. I think the Queen would have said, "Off with their heads, whoever decided this." Wouldn't it be good if she did that? Once again, we're focusing on the wrong issues. Who comes up with this crap? I really don't know. Look, an update. I don't think we're going to be able to do the random live shot of the day for you tonight because of the little problems we're having. So let's have a look at some final bits of feedback before we wrap up this crazy Thursday night. Would you like a drink, Jasmine?
Yes.
I might even be able to get her on the wine. Probably not. Beck says, last year I asked the WAC government for my childhood records. If the bill was to go ahead, would that affect things like that? Well, no, Beck, federal is different to states. So what Anthony Albanese is talking about is a federal bill. So it shouldn't affect what you're doing in WA. Jeanette says, so most dogs would be banned. Yeah, Jeanette, I mean, this is just crazy. Own You're Crazy says, sounds to me like too many British people are keeping large dogs in places too small to house them properly. Yeah, but you know what? Deal with that. If that is the issue, absolutely deal with that. But they're saying, as I said with the corgis, they're saying that their legs are too stumpy. A lot of it is focused on, basically unhealthiness. It all seems to come down to these dogs are being judged to be unhealthy. And that's what's going on here. Gareth says, Queen Elizabeth made many poor choices, including her preferred dog breed. Andrew was her favourite child after all. Maybe not a good judge of character there. Matthew says, I have a rough collie. Okay, do you know what a rough collie is, Jazz? No, I don't either. Where's our dog? Oh, Sansa's on the floor there. Beck says, pug should be no surprise. Why is that, Beck? I don't know. We've got this one from Jeanette. People who come out of this crap are people who have nothing else to. People who come out with this crap are people who have nothing else to do. So true, Jeanette. So very, very true. We've got Clintos is the best of saying the British causing a dog act. Jimmy says meow meow, said a very tipsy dog. I'm gonna try that again, Jimmy. Meow meow, said a very tipsy dog. I'm not a dog, I'm a cat. Now, what's the woke stoner saying? He was saying, who let the dogs out? There you go. Okay. All right. This brings us to the end of this crazy edition. I'm going to have some more drinks. We will be back to normal programming on Monday when I buy some new equipment. So if you want to help us with that, put some money in the chat. Go to buymeacoffee.com/@McKnight Tonight. Oh, well done, Jazzy. And look, I'm exhausted. Hang on. Is the wokest owners saying worst fake laugh in the industry? Are you talking about me? I promise you one thing. You can criticize me on a lot of things, but my laugh is genuine. I'm very generous with my laugh, but I'm very genuine with my laugh. So, in fact, my family get annoyed by my laugh because it's too loud. So, I don't know if that was meant to me, but I'm not copping that. Now Rob thinks he's Scooby-Doo, says Matt. And Mr. Phil Gilbert says maybe some of the dogs can do a grandma moment and dress up like grandma. Inventive ways to keep the dogs alive. That's what we're talking about here. All right, everyone. Thanks for your company tonight. Sorry about all the technical issues. We're back to normal on Monday night. Have a great weekend. And I'll try and do a stream for all the members of the paid membership of YouTube. So if you want to become a paid member and join us for a chat that could pop up at any time over the weekend, make sure you do it. All right, I'm Rob McKnight. We'll see you next week. It's good night from McKnight.
Fun, insightful interviews from a washed-up producer with nothing to lose. McKnight Tonight. McKnight Tonight. McKnight Tonight. It's good enough.